Hello and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Energy Unleashed podcast. My name is Suzanne, and I'm here with my co-host Kim. Hello.
Hello there.
Look at you, pretty in purple today. That's a great color on you.
Yeah, my complexion is so pale right now. I needed some color.
It's the winter look of Minnesotans. You gotta love
That's
that.
right. Pasty
For
white. That's a great way
for
to
a
go.
couple months, we all look like that. Who cares, right? Hey, you match my purple though. We're purple and purple.
Oh, look at you.
I know I'm doing really well. Look, I went to PT today. I'm entering my third week of the break, and she was very thrilled with the amount of movement and the amount of and like I said to everybody, if anyone watching this doesn't know, I broke my wrist, actually really creamed it, shattered it in quite a few places and spaces on the 17th of December. But so I'm coming into my third week here, and yeah, it's amazing. I think I'm just so in awe of our body and how we heal, right? And it sucks to have limitation, but at the same time, I do my best to just keep bringing it back to how amazing, I take this off a lot right now and I'm massaging it and working the scar already. And I sat there staring at the scar thinking, how weird is that? Like seriously, 2 weeks ago, it was sliced open, putting in a plate with stitches, and now it's like completely healed back together. It's weird. It's weird.
It's fast. Because when I saw you on New Year's, you were
Yep. Couldn't
like
even move.
this. Like you're
Yeah.
totally using your fingers now. Like
Yeah.
you
And
really
now
got
my actual struggle is to not push myself too hard too fast. That's, me. I'm always miss go
yeah.
overboard. And so she was showing me how to massage it today. And I'm like, well, that's not even like really massaging. She's like, Suzanne.
Listen to me now. Listen
Can
to
we
me
just,
now.
can we just draw it down a little bit? So, but anyway, it's
What?
good
I'm
lessons.
gonna massage
I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. So, and very ambidextrous at this point. I'm really impressed. So,
it.
for those of you that have maybe not listened to us before, lots of times what we do on the Energy Unleashed podcast is bring forward some actual client sessions that I have as a practitioner. And most of the time, I don't tell Kim about what it is so that she can have an organic, natural reaction to the information, just like a listener would. And it puts her on the spot a little bit, but it makes it much more, I think, realistic. And I had a client not all that long ago that was really, really struggling with some serious pain. I mean, like really chronic pain. And I'm going to go through the pain first, and then I'm going to back up and talk about the energy. So
Okay.
this particular person had herniated discs in several places down the actual back of her body. And it was herniated neck discs. It was herniated back and lower back discs. Her hips were completely screwed up. So massive, massive chronic pain. And it is on the back side of the body. When we're talking about the chakra system, oftentimes this will hold the anger. Not that we don't hold anger everywhere,
Mhm.
but this most of the time when it's on the backside will indicate anger coming from others, and we can't like logically compute and make things make sense in our bodies. So we're going to talk about conditions today, because this is what actually created this dis-ease in this person's body, which then we take the little dash out and it turns into disease, right? We're talking actual physical disease here in terms of herniated discs, not being able to walk, etc. So the places where we dis-ease is because the chakra consciousness is not getting enough gasoline. It's not getting enough life force. So it's like starving that area, and then the body will go accordingly and dis-ease. So we're talking about neck pain, which is the throat chakra. So the throat chakra has to do with holding my truth, being able to hold my truth with no conditions attached. And this is the caveat that I want to talk about today, which is conditions. And I was saying earlier, catching up with Kim, people don't understand they conditionalize everything. I mean, I have so many conversations with clients, and they'll say, "Yeah, but I don't conditionalize anything." And then they'll tell me a story, and I'm like, "That's the condition." And then they'll do the old, right? So when it comes to the throat, when we have the back being stuck,
Mhm.
this is me not being able to receive even maybe a compliment
Mhm.
or information or something without my hesitation of, what are you really saying? What are you really not saying? What do you really mean? Do you know that feeling? Do you do that ever?
No, of course. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
You mean
I'm
you're not
human.
perfect?
Yeah, especially compliments.
Right?
Right. Yeah. So
That's
I
a tough one for people.
mhm.
Like, what are you really saying I look pretty for? Like, why are
Yeah,
you doing
what's really your game?
it? Right. And you can even amazingly do that with a spouse. Isn't that crazy? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, especially when your spouse is very sarcastic all the time. You just never know.
Yeah. So the condition on that kind of a thing is really tough. I want to go deeper on this though and unleash this part a little bit more, and then we'll move to the next chakra. But more so, it's like when I am giving advice, or if I'm telling somebody something, or if I'm sharing my truth, where the condition really starts to dis-ease in the body is when we wait for that person to receive our information and agree with me, right? Agree with me, make sure that I know that I'm right, because now you said that I was right. Those are all conditional chords.
Okay,
So
wait,
the
let's do this
same
again.
number.
Like do an example around that because so you're saying like somebody said something to me. I'm not taking it in.
I'm hesitating. Okay. Well,
Hesitating.
let's reverse it. I'm
Yeah.
saying something to my daughter, and I'm
Okay.
saying, you should really do this. You should really do this. This is a good idea, and you should go and say blah, blah, and do this. And then the daughter's like, yeah, but I don't want to do that. And you're like, yeah, I know, but that would be a really good idea. And you know, that whole conversation right there is off anyway, because we don't get to tell somebody what to do. But
Right.
oftentimes that's how we approach things. You should do this, or think about this, or why don't you do it this way, or look up this, or go find a job over here, or all those things that we do. Where the conditional chord comes in is there's a lag in the energy where we're still hanging to see if they follow through.
Oh, so you're holding it.
Yes. So this board of, I say these things and I'm hanging out here with a condition attached to it to see that if you're actually going to do what I said, or believe what I believe, or say what I say, or whatever it is, it's this constant continual cord of energy that's going between, that's kind of strangling the throat chakra, because I'm going to wait to see if I made a difference, if I changed you, if you did something different because I was that smart and wonderful. All of those things are really manipulation.
Okay. Okay, that makes more sense.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Okay.
It does, except I was thinking about what's the difference between condition and expectation, or is it in the same playing field?
I think conditionalized voice is subtle, and it's oftentimes in the subconscious.
Hmm.
Expectation is more conscious, and I'm going to put it forward and I'm going to push. It's a different to me, and maybe I'm
Okay.
wrong on this, but my personal take energetically is there's two different pushes to that energy.
Okay.
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 So I think that that's a little tough in terms of I'm present and I'm expecting. Okay. That
Mhm.
definitely is still a chord, and it's still cutting off my life force because I'm expecting you to change, you know.
Right.
But true unconditional is, I'm just going to give you the message. And if you take it, great. If you don't, great. It doesn't matter. It doesn't value. It doesn't have anything to do with my value. It doesn't have anything to do with my truth. It doesn't have anything to do with anything. I'm just going to give it to you. And it's a gift. And I cut that conversation off and expectation off completely. There's
Okay.
nothing there. Okay. That's the unconditional.
So the conditional is you're waiting for to see what the results are because you're trying to control whatever that is the advice that you're giving.
And it's not even just waiting for the results, it's expecting results, you
See,
know?
expecting. That's so
Yeah,
interesting.
there's the expectation.
Yeah.
Expecting results is part of it, but I'm not expecting it on a conscious level. Expectation on a conscious level may be a little bit different.
Okay.
Does that make some sense? It's just a tad different, but it really is just a smidgen. Everything is about, when we talk on these podcasts, everything is about energy. Energy is about frequency, resonance, vibration. The vibrational control is just a little bit different.
Right.
Not that it isn't all just garbage, we're just doing garbage when we're communicating like that.
Yeah. I think keep going through the
Yeah,
and
so I
then
want to finish this
yeah.
client, so I want to keep going. So the next one is, she's got the back pain, which is going into the back of her, like let's say around the bra strap area, okay, just upper back, mid back. This is the heart chakra. So the heart chakra also will do the same thing, conditional love. So the first one is
Mhm.
conditional truth, conditional communication, conditional being able to show up, speak up. And this is conditional love. I'm lovable if I'm lovable when dot, 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 and you fill in the dot, right?
Right.
So in this particular case, this client's father, all her growing up years, wanted her to be a doctor like him. You're going to
Mm.
be a doctor. Well, I really don't want to be a doctor. Yeah, but you're going to be a doctor because that's what we do. Oftentimes we find families that will have like a thing. Officers, police officers, firefighters, lots of times generations will pick up those kinds of careers.
Yep.
Okay. Surgeons have surgeon doctors, kids, blah, blah, blah. And so oftentimes that pressure that she got all through her growing up years, and she, by the way, did not become a doctor. Okay. Just
Mm.
let you know that, but she had the pressure inside of her body all the growing up years of the narrative from dad that you are going to be a doctor. Now think of the struggle inside that says, well, crap, I am not even lovable and worth enough if I'm not a doctor. If I'm a doctor, I'm lovable and I'm accepted. And if I'm not good enough. And that really wears on those anchors inside of us about worth, safe, and enough.
It is. I mean, I think, especially as a child-parent relationship, I know for myself, I would do things because I wanted my parents to be proud of me,
Mm-hmm.
or because that's part of the acceptance, or, um, you know, that condition and expectation, even though they're a little different, it was, I would do whatever to try and adhere to that, because then they would be really
Happy.
excited for me and happy. And, but if you buck the system, then it was disappointment potentially, which is one of the worst words in my whole
Yeah, it's crushing.
vocabulary.
It's a good Catholic word, by the way.
A good
Uh,
Catholic word.
I always knew that I could say I'm really disappointed in you versus I'm angry with you. And then that was the
I could totally just lose it under disappointment. Yeah.
yep, yep. So these are things that go on inside of our body. They keep getting stuck more and more. Think of that, years and years of, no, you're going to be a doctor. Now I'm, a junior high kid going, I'm even squeamish in biology class. There's nothing about me that wants to be a doctor. I want to go be a fashion designer, and I mean, think of the joy and the passion that is getting squashed by the conditionalized messaging, right?
Right.
And so this is coming in the backside and it's coming out the backside because it's anger and it's receiving. The front side, I'm giving. My chakras are giving. I give love. I give my message. I give whatever. This is the receiving side. I'm receiving those messages. I'm receiving non-worth. I'm receiving, and I hold anger back here because of it. So think of our chakras like cones, and it's just getting stuck in that cone, stuck in that cone, stuck in that cone, and
Mhm.
hence the herniated disc. And I, by the way, also can't, are you ready? Stand up for myself. I'm
Right. Because you
starting
can't even
to,
stand up. I mean,
right,
you're
I'm
in
starting to do,
pain.
right. So
Oh.
now I'm chronic and I'm starting to get chronic this, and I've got this, and I've got this in that mid back and that neck area. Then ultimately, we also have the herniation all the way down into the pelvis floor, the pelvic floor of the pelvis. And this is because that's the root chakra of safe. And so it's, my worth, my enough, and my safe all wrapped up together. And the safe goes down into the root chakra because this is where the actual belief systems of the parents are housed. And so, I'm not safe in my family, in my love, in my acceptance, in my worth in this family if I'm not a doctor. I'm never going to have enough money if I don't be a surgeon. And on it goes. And so our whole safety value starts to go out the window here too. So I can even be thrown out of the family because I'm not good enough, and on it goes. So it's so difficult. And people, I cannot tell you how many people don't realize they're conditionalizing things. I mean, they just don't get it. It's
So
just,
talk about the client. So now she's I think it's a she's not
yeah,
receiving, it's sitting there, but her mind is doing
yep,
I'm not good enough. I should have been a doctor. I know when I see my parents, I should have been a doctor, and I just am not receiving. Even if her parents were like, we love you, she's
yep.
not receiving it because she's blocked at that interaction. right? Like,
And it just wears away. It actually anchors and it solidifies. And this is a really good lesson I'm having with this. If I don't move this right now, my scar tissue and my fascia is going to have my hands really like this for the rest of my life. If
Mhm.
I'm not stretching and moving and getting back into play, movement and having the body expand and grow and move again, I'm not going to have anything,
Mm,
right? If we're just getting pummeled, because it solidifies, the energy solidifies. I can see inside of my own wrist and I can see where the energy is stuck and angry because it got sliced up and pinned up and,
yeah.
all kinds of crap in there is solidified. If you don't go through a PT, you will not have range of motion, hence you will be crippled and diseased. No different than a chakra on the backside that's getting solidified in messaging, messaging, messaging. And it's almost like a layer and a layer and a layer, and it starts to coagulate, and the energy just gets really stuck and tight. No different than this. And it will start to herniate that disc because I can't move. And yet my body's moving every day with that backbone because this is what we do when we walk around, right? I mean, it's always,
Mhm,
so it's fighting itself, right?
mhm.
So we're breaking our bodies to pieces when we get this really convoluted bipolar messaging. The
Okay.
energy doesn't know where to go, right?
So when you see it, are you going to talk
Yeah,
about that, or am I jumping
yeah,
ahead?
go ahead.
When you're working with a client, then what does it look like in the
Black.
energy fields right there? Because
Black and stuck and no movement. And it
um,
blacker, the more detrimental. Grayish is still getting there black, a little bit of movement. There's still some life force, but the more it solidifies, just think I'm stirring cement and it's goopy at the beginning and then it gets a little thicker and then it gets a little thicker. That's what the dis-ease does. And then the bones will not work accordingly and the discs won't move. It solidifies and then we break things, right? So this is not dissimilar in terms of watching the activity of the energy flow, the life force. And so as a practitioner, I go in and I blast all of that apart and I literally take light and I pummel it and I do it like infrared pummeling or, like infrared hammering it with lights so that it's jackhammering away and removing that stuff so there's mobility and movement again.
so
That's what,
for so the client,
yeah,
because this is where I'm a little, and I'm trying to figure out how to ask this the right way, but
yeah,
in her, because the client continues the thought process of I should have been a doctor, I should have been a doctor, I should have been a doctor. And any messages that come to her, she doesn't feel the worth because she's still holding I should have been a doctor.
yep.
That's what's starting to just change and turn into the whole
It's
black.
a piece of it, but think of how the extension of that messaging goes. I want to be a fashion designer. I'm just going to stay with that one because it's such a polarized difference. I want to be a fashion designer. I want to go out and just do some crazy stuff. I want to make
Mhm.
handbags. That's what I really want to do. Well, you can't do that because that isn't real. So now I'm limited. I have limited mobility in my creativity. Hence, I have limited mobility. Our body and our dis-ease is very metaphoric a lot of times too. I can't stand up to my dad. I can't stand up to my dad. I don't have flow in creativity in any way. I have no flow.
Mhm.
So we take all of these messages. That's limitation. That's no creativity. That's not being heard. That's not being seen. That's not being valued. That's not being validated. All of these things are dovetailing off of that comment that says, yeah, but you should have been. And
And
should have is
it's
hard
not
enough.
only that, okay, go ahead.
Sorry, should enough is hard enough because that means I have no control over my own life,
Right.
right? Right.
Yeah, because the parent could say you cannot be a fashion designer, or in their own mind, they can say, I cannot be a fashion designer because I should have been a doctor. It
Right.
doesn't matter where that message comes from, it still does the same type of damage,
And
right?
even think about if she takes a semester of being a doctor because I'm supposed to. I can't remember to tell you the truth if this person actually did do a little studying and moved into that, but I don't believe so. Um, if I even go into a semester of being a doctor because I'm supposed to do that, think of the traumatic, constant upheaval inside of your body going, I hate this. I don't want this. And I'm being forced into this. That's like submission to slavery, you know? And I hate it. And it makes my stomach turn and I'm angry and I'm worthless. And now I don't understand it. And I'm not good enough. And I'm not smart enough to be a doctor. And and on the self-worth just gets hammered.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So the messaging dovetails into a million different tentacles, which then again chokes that life force energy. And when we have adhesion and herniated discs and or freezing up of when our shoulders freeze up, sometimes shoulders freeze up and people can't even use their arm, that's because you're metaphorically shouldering someone on your, blah, blah. So the body will follow the metaphor of the dis-ease and create an actual dis-ease.
So how does the person, like, if they wouldn't go, to get help from an energy healer is one thing, and they still have to do work around this, absolutely. But if you don't see a healer, what do you do when you know you have this? Like,
well, I think you go to any extreme to get rid of it, not knowing necessarily that it's a consciousness thing. The great thing about metaphysical healing is that there's an attachment to the belief system, right? Western medicine is just going to maybe put a knife to your shoulder or a knife to your back or put a screw in there or something like that, but they don't take away the belief system. I can screw my back. That's not going to sound great, but I can stick screws in my back or plates in my back as much as I want to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of what I'm doing. What is the consciousness behind here? What is, what am I driving in life? What am I in charge of, et cetera, et cetera. It's my job as the one who's hurt to find out what is the messaging that's disoriented behind it that's going to cause the dis-ease to come right back. I can have a plate and a screw, but it's going to come right back in my back if I still have that messaging that I'm not good and I can't stand up to even my parent,
Right.
Whether, by the way, if they're alive or not. A lot of people still have angry interactions with dead parents.
Oh yeah, I can
Right?
imagine. I mean, you're holding that much in around this. It's not going away. I mean, you could go to your grave with it. I mean,
So the conditions on our love, I'm lovable if you, and I want you to see how silly this is because we don't know we do it. I had a client the other day that says, I don't feel conditionalized though with my partner. I mean, whatever. But a little bit later, we're having a conversation about control freak, right? And she's like, yeah, but I mean, he doesn't do anything I ask him to. And I'm like, And she's like, yeah, I mean, for example, he's just sitting there watching the Vikings game and I asked him to do the dishes like 4 times and he didn't get up and do the dishes. And I go, yeah. And she's like, yeah, it drives me nuts. And I'm so mad. And I go, why are you mad? And she's like, because he should do the dishes. And so now I walk her through. If he doesn't do the dishes, what does that mean about you? And she goes, well, what do you mean? And I said, if he doesn't do the dishes and you asked him to, what does that mean about you? And she goes, it means that he's not listening to me. He's not doing what I asked him to. And I go, and if he's not listening to you and not doing what you asked, what does that mean about you? And she goes, well, what I'm saying isn't even like worth listening to. And I go, and if what you're saying isn't worth listening to, what does that mean about you? And she's like, well, that means that I'm not even, and then she's like, and then it's like, oh shit, I just realized what you're doing because I walk her through the steps to realize the thought pattern under there is if you loved me enough, you would have washed the dishes.
yeah. Or
If
respect
I
me,
was,
or
yeah,
it's love, respect, like all those
respect.
things. If you
Yep,
really,
love, respect, you're part of this household. It's all the same stuff and it's all conditional. And we don't know we're doing it. And all we're doing is equating our worth, our love, our value, our safe, our everything, and our enough to dishes. And you know what? I still do it.
I know.
Right?
Yes. I just thought that was part of a marriage. I'm not sure, but
The problem is we don't understand how conditionalized we are, And let's go to the throat chakra at the same time. I want you to do the dishes before, or we're having company. It's Thanksgiving. Everybody's coming at 4 and I really want the dishes done. Yep. Did you not?
we just did this. I just am thinking about my poor kids. Like, if you do this, I'll let you do this. If you do this, I'll give you this. If you do this, through their whole lives. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
We bargain out our love and our worth. We
Yeah.
barter and bargain our love and our worth out, and we don't even know that we're doing it, but these are all messages, when consistent and continued throughout the life, can either bounce off of us if we have a pretty good self-worth, but if we don't, it's going to get stuck in that cone, just like that girl.
Mhm.
So it's so rampant and big and normal and absolutely stuff we don't think about, because this is how we humans communicate.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
we're
I
brought up that way.
said I want you to do the dishes. I said I want that done by 3 o'clock and it's 3:30. I said that. That's just as much as you don't love me enough is I'm not being heard and I'm not being validated. So it's all of them.
We were brought up that way, though. I mean, when you think about school, if you do your homework and you do well, you're going to get a star or a piece of candy. If
Yeah.
you at church, if you're really good, you're going to go to heaven. If you're really, just and then with parenting, I mean, we were bombarded with that growing up.
Yep.
Absolutely.
We still are.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
true. True. Look at political and look
I,
at
s- I still have
medical.
people that think that if they're not good, they're not going to heaven. I mean, I still literally had a client last week talk about not getting to heaven. And I'm like, wait, well, you still think like that? It's just like, talk about conditional.
Well, but that's a lot of years of, yeah,
Yeah,
it's just there. It's
right.
there. Wow.
So conditions are so sneaky
Yeah. And they don't make you feel good. I'm going to say
on,
that. When
on
I
either end, on either end.
No, if I'm
No,
the one putting the condition on and it doesn't happen, and even if it does happen, I still don't feel great about it.
no,
Yeah.
no, because none of that exchange of energy and or communication or heartfelt energy, blah, blah, no matter what chakra, is not divine. It's manipulated. It's it's contrived, it's conditional. So when it's conditional, it's heavier. And this is why the dis-ease comes faster and quicker, because when anything is fear-based in our energy field, it's heavier. If it's
Mhm.
love-based, it's lighter.
Right.
So one little shot and another little shot are really heavy, and then they get controlled. And watch how this goes. I'm getting hit not good enough for being a doctor, and it comes through my back. And then it's like, yeah, but I told you I didn't want to be a doctor. Now it's wrapped around here. And
Yeah.
then it's like, and I'm just going to stand up on camera, and you didn't listen to me, but I believe you should be a doctor. So now it's here. I mean, it's like an octopus around my entire body.
Oh, yeah. And that's bigger than that type of situation is much bigger than like it all matters, but there's little things, little conditions that you can let go, that don't become an octopus.
Right.
It's something big like that that you carry and carry and carry. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm in pain just listening to this whole story.
Yeah. And let's go back to what you just said,
Empathy.
because empath. Let's go back to what you just said, though, because it reminds me of a story that I taught in classes when I did them years ago about going through the drive-through. You've heard this, going through the drive-through at Taco John's, tell the guy, hey, don't forget to put sauce in. I get to the next stoplight, I look in the bag and there's no sauce and I'm pissed, right? And I carry that and I carry it and I carry it all the way through. Now I'm road rage. Now I'm yelling at somebody. Now I'm trying to burn through a light because I'm mad. I carry that for the rest of my however long I carry it. And it's because I don't feel respected because he didn't listen to me. I wasn't heard. I wasn't validated. I wasn't important enough to give something to me that I specifically asked for. All of that, right? There's
Mhm.
that. There's that. That would not have affected me if I didn't have an anchor somewhere inside of me still that says, I don't deserve respect. So
Oh,
do you see? So
I
this
see.
is how we wrap this up, this whole podcast up, is the whole point is no matter what someone says and how they interact, it's your job to make sure that your cylinder is clean, your container is clean enough to say, yeah, but I am respected enough. This is when you start to go, oh my God, that kid didn't give me sauce. Are you freaking kidding me? And then you start laughing is, oh my God, now I'm equating my sauce to my worth. That's hysterical. You can catch yourself, right? Doesn't mean
Right.
I'm still not pissed I didn't get my sauce, but I'm not angry enough to bring it through my day and blame others for my whatever.
Yeah.
There's a difference there. We cut it off in paradigm shift because we realize how silly it is. It doesn't negate the fact that I'm irritated or surprised or whatever for the moment, but it's the carrying on of the condition that causes the dis-ease.
And
Okay.
so all the little things add up and make it big overall. It doesn't have to be one big situation.
Nope. It
It
can
is
grow
like,
and grow. Yep.
God, I'm thinking about when I would get a coffee on the way to work and they gave me the wrong coffee. And then you get into work and right away there's something that normally wouldn't trigger me,
Never
but
bother
trigger
you.
me. And then yeah, it just goes on for the whole day. And you get to the end of the day and you're just much
Exhausted. Yeah.
exhausted because
And
it's so much
you've
energy.
and you've anchored it again and again and again in you. By the time I did the Taco John's drive-through, what I taught in classes, I ended up in Best Buy, and all I was doing is trying to get something fixed on my computer after I stopped at the taco place. And I chewed this little kid up. He was probably about 12 years old. Well, he had to be 16. He
He
was
looks like
just
12
young,
now
and
though.
I'll never forget him. He was blonde. And I mean, I was so flippin' rude to this kid. And I'm just chewing him up one side and down the other for my ignorance of what was happening on the computer, but I'm displacing everything because my value and my worth was now triggered even more because I'm an idiot as far as my computer goes. And so I'm just projecting the whole entire time,
Mhm.
right? And I caught myself in the middle of Best Buy when this kid's face of terror was looking at me like, what the hell, lady? Like, what, you know? And I just literally went like this and I started laughing really hard. And I'm like, I am so sorry. And I don't think he thought it was as funny as I did, but I mean, it was to catch yourself in the madness is
Oh,
what you really probably wanted to do when I had my first, like drive out of the driveway. Catch yourself quicker so that you don't kill the little kid in Best Buy.
wait.
Because he had nothing to do with it. It was just constant revalidation that I had no talent, no worth, no brains, no smart, no this, no that, you know?
And I see you just see it like shopping before the holidays. Man, man,
Yep.
man. And just watching and observing some of it was like, is it really worth like humiliating or making someone feel like, but
Shit.
then you look
Yeah.
at that person
Yeah.
and all of them handled it differently. Some were
Yeah.
very strong in their bodies and would be like, well, I understand what you're saying, but this is how it's going to be. Thank you. Have a nice holiday.
Yep.
And others were just like ready to cry, just
Yep.
horrified.
Because
Um,
we're switching beliefs and we're switching the conditions. Now I'm conditionalizing the Best Buy kid. So these conditions just keep going like a football pass off throughout the entire day. And it's really quite cruel because they aren't even in the initial scenario. When somebody gets better with conditions, they start to do this. I pull away from the taco store. I find at the first stoplight that I don't have the sauce. I validate my pissed offness, but then I start to giggle. And then I find an element of going through my matrix going, oh my God, that totally rocked my worth. And I'm obviously sauce doesn't validate my worth. And that's a giggle. And then you move into, if you choose to even further to go, oh, wow, that dude probably was having a bad day. He was just, plus, by the way, I never mentioned he was very flippant and kind of nasty. And
mm,
I took that even further. So by thinking, oh, he probably was having a bad day or he hates his job, you can sort of find that letting go, letting go, letting go. So we can do that all the way back to do the dishes. Wow, you're just totally into the football game and I hate football. So I guess I'm just going to relax for a minute and let you get to the commercial. You can find negotiations, you can find space, you can find a little bit of observer and neutrality before you go bonkers when
mhm.
you're in a better space with conditions.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. It's the catching yourself that, depending on where you're at and your own day, your body can be really difficult.
Yep.
If your triggers, we talked about triggers in the last
Yeah.
podcast, that if you're triggered by something small like that or big or whatever,
Yep.
then you're moving forward and putting conditions on things based on your reaction to what you had anyway. Like
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
it is. I think about why some people are so angry, you
Yeah.
know, and so intolerant. It's amazing, you just to observe it when you're out and about. But
Well, and think how exhausting it is to feel so conditionalized in a parental love. I'm just going to go back to the client to wrap it up. I can't even be good enough for you to love unless I do something
Mhm,
that you want me to do.
mhm,
And this is, I think, why it's critical for us to remember this parental hierarchy thing of you know better because you're my dad. In actuality, we're two souls that came in with very many lifetimes and all kinds of wisdom. And we just simply picked the hierarchy for the lesson plan. So please, if you choose, listeners, remind yourself there is no I know better because I'm a parent or I know less because I'm a child. That's all fake. We're all souls that are down here to have our experiences. And when we can go back into neutral and go, wow, this barrage from my father is a lesson in, you know, blah, blah, blah. We can paradigm and take our power back.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so profound, because I think that especially now I see children coming in and they're so brilliant at the age of 3 and 4 years old, where I'm like, wait, where's the graham cracker and the nap? When
Yep.
you're looking at how fast they're progressing and how just open they are.
Yeah.
And so that's really, yeah.
Yeah.
Jennifer
It's coming
conditioning.
very apparent that everybody's on the same playing field, but you know, we fall for the illusion of hierarchy in the family. So, you know, yeah, these are hard things. So again, I'm just going to go over it in terms of the throat is that you're not being heard. I'm not being seen. I'm not being validated. You're not listening to me. I'm not worth being even talked to, you know, or I'm conditionalizing and I'm going to wait for you. I'm going to say this. I'm going to watch if you change because I said it. All of those are really difficult. The heart one is love. It is, I'm not good enough unless I do this. I'm not, you know, and I want you to be this because I'm more comfortable. So let's do the heart really quick on the dad's side. So the dad is uncomfortable with the thought of somebody being an artist. That doesn't make me feel good because that makes me feel like I wasn't a good enough parent. We take each other's power all the time in these situations. And so because the dad doesn't feel he did good enough, he's going to conditionalize that love quotient back and forth, and then it gets really messy. So the heart one, it goes really big. And then again, into our lower back, our sciatica, into the pelvic area, into the, you know, even hip flexors, all of that, which by the way, will affect the knees being needed. This is all the belief systems. So they're big spots, and this poor woman was just locked up all the way down her spine.
So
So
after you went through the process with her and did your healing, like
yeah.
how did she seem? Like
Well,
how
my homework is they're always amazed that they can move. They're like, I don't understand this. And it's like, it's just energy. And for a newbie, they're like, you know, like my one the other day, I can't move my hip and got off the table and they're like, okay, that's really weird. My hip feels perfectly fine. I'm like, yep. So it's just energy.
yeah.
So for them, it's very difficult to understand unless they get into this more and have trust and work with their body. But it's also just energy that will stay away only until you put it back in.
Mhm.
And so you are the one that's in charge of your own healing long term, because unless you change the belief system, the energy flow will continue to divert back like a default system.
Right. And I think self-love comes into that too. You have
For
to work
sure.
on your self-love for sure. So
For sure.
yeah, that makes total sense. If you don't do the work, it's going to come right back.
Right.
Within 3 days, you could be limping around again because
Or I love this
all the
one.
thoughts,
This is
all
my
the
favorite client one. Oh my God, my shoulder was so great until Christmas when the whole family was together. Really? You know? You know, those big events that are so I would say scripted. We expect them to go this way because they always have. You know, no matter how great we're doing, we fall for that script again. It's like, oh,
yeah.
here we go, you know. That always makes me giggle.
Yeah, right. Well, it's there.
Yeah. Oh, hey, it was gone for 3 months. Hey, it was gone for 4 years. Now it's back, really? You know. So look at your play, you know, look at your actors, look at your
Yeah.
script, look at what's happening to reboot that belief system that you're allowing it to happen. So
Right. And go back also, and just last week is the triggers, and that would help too.
yep.
Those
Yep.
things that come up are definitely part of your beliefs. So
Funny, isn't it?
all
Anyway,
connected.
yeah. So do your best to catch yourself on conditions, because conditions attached are lethal,
Oh,
basically.
I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I'm sorry, children.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
right?
so sorry.
Uh, Don't you do that often? I mean,
I
I
do.
made several attempts with my kids. We have a group text, and I have done it in person at family things to say, all of you forget everything I've taught you ever, because I
Just
just
go be
didn't,
you. Go be you.
I
Don't,
just didn't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't hold on to any of that because.
And I really, before we go here, I really want to say to people, you might not catch it right away because it might be a knee-jerk reaction for you to be in conditionalized situations. If indeed you catch it 3 days later or even 2 weeks later, please, if you choose, which I hope you do, have the kindness and the courage to go back to your child or whomever and say, gosh, I just realized something. I just realized I was really sounding conditional in that conversation or whatever,
Mhm.
because it's never too late to paradigm shift.
Mm-mm.
And even the forgiveness act is going to change the energy, right?
It is.
So because we're both holding stuck energy, like you said, it affects both of us.
Mhm. Yeah,
So be aware
right.
there's not a timeline on this stuff either.
No, there is not. And I have gone back for when as I was doing my own healing,
Right.
the realization of, wow, I was really trying to control this or manipulate this, in many situations to go back and acknowledge that with them was freeing for me as
Yeah.
much as them, so
It cracks me
it's
up so much that this dad wanted his daughter to be a doctor so that he could be in a social situation to say, yes, my daughter's a doctor, and everyone goes, wow, you must be a
Mhm.
really good dad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so
Yeah, it's
funny.
all ego. It's ego stuff. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hysterical. I think I told you that one story one time when we had a hockey party and all the parents were over and it was years after and everyone was saying how wonderful their kids were and everyone was upping one another and my kid's doing this and my kid's doing that now that they're done with hockey and they're in college. And they're like, Suzanne, what's yours doing? I said, he's sitting in the basement playing video games, smoking weed. And they're all like, and I'm like, hey, that has nothing to do with me. They were all like shocked. And I'm like, no, I'm not owning any of that. And
No.
funny enough, their kids were doing the same exact thing, I would assume, college or no college or whatever, right? So many are doing the same thing, but God forbid we admit that because that means Suzanne's a failure as a parent. No, absolutely not. That's not my choice. So, and that's a short-lived thing. I mean, well, maybe he still plays video games, but I don't know what he does because he's an adult now. But,
Yeah.
I mean, for us to just not own each other's things like that and conditionalize that is just it's so easy to do this, is all I'm getting.
Oh, and it just weighs you down to
Yeah.
do that.
And you don't get to live through your other person. My daughter's a doctor. It doesn't have anything to do with you. So
Mhm.
it's a weird, it's like a control weird thing. It's ego. Yeah.
It is absolutely ego because titles were so important,
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know.
And the funny part is if you are the kid smoking weed at, 17 because you don't know what you want to do instead of going into the doctoral program, the one that goes into the doctoral program is probably going to hit the wall in their 40s because they're so freaking miserable that's when they're going to go off the cliff anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like figure it out because everyone has to find that place in their life at some time or another, right?
Well, and it's about your own desires and passion. If you don't
Yeah.
fill that bucket, which I didn't know for how many years, but if you don't fill that bucket, you're not
Yeah.
creative. You're not excited to get up in the morning,
Yes.
and be creative and do new things and experience, what's there. It's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a doozer.
this
Okay.
is a
Any
good
other
one.
things you think we got it covered?
Yeah, it was really good, actually.
Okay.
I was just
Well,
reminiscing through my life,
I know
thinking,
now you're going, oh my God, right? That's what I
yeah,
do a lot of
I
that.
know.
It's okay.
I think I'm
Let it
gonna have
go.
to be nicer tonight.
Did our best, did our best, did our best. Okay, well, on behalf of both of us, thank you for listening. Please choose, if you choose, to hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button. It helps us out with our algorithms. And comment if you do. It
Yes.
helps Kim and I decide what to write about. So give us a holler. And until next time, everybody, Cosmic Hugs.
Goodbye.